Excuse me, would everybody please turn off their cell phones? And if CTA staff will keep an eye on the chairs, because if it fills up and we have people from the general public come in, staff members to please stand and let the public sit. Thank you. What? It didn't come over? Hello, can you hear me? Did everybody hear what I just said? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to call to order the June 2015 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Will the Secretary call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Irvine.
Here.
Mr. Youngblood.
Here.
Dr. Sen.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Chairman Silva.
Here.
Mr. Alvarez will be here in a couple of minutes. We have a quorum right now with 6 members of the committee present.
Our first order of business today is the approval of the committee minutes of May 3rd, 2015. The minutes were previously distributed. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, on the May minutes. Mr. Robinson.
Abstain.
Abstain. Mr. Irvine.
Yes.
Dr. Sen.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 1 abstention.
Our next order of business is the review of the finance report. Ron and Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron, CFO for the CTA. We're going to discuss our April results. So fair and pass revenue was roughly budget down slightly. Our reduced fare, again, as we discussed last month, we're putting in 0 for reduced fare. And to clarify that, the state 15 budget, which closes June 30th, only put in half of the reduced fare. So we are adjusting our 15 budget accordingly from January to June, and we will show a $7 million unfavorable variance, and that's due to the state's 15 budget. The state's 16 budget is what is still in question, and what was put forth, again, they actually put in half of the reimbursement. So we'll look at that in the second half when we close in July, and we'll have probably have a better feel for what is happening with that reimbursement. But that was put forward, came to fruition, it would be another $7 million unfavorable variance for July through December of 2015, which is the first half of the state 16 budget.
So what, 14 million?
Yes, 14 million unfavorable. The non-fare box, again, is roughly flat to budget. So total revenue is 2.4 million below budget, primarily due to the reduced fare reimbursement. Our average fare is up slightly by 2 cents, and you can see, again, our free rides continue to decline versus last year, and that was because of the really good work of our security department and our internal auditors, and really monitoring, and our revenue department, and monitoring free rides, and they continue to decline during the year. Our year-to-date fare and pass was $2 million unfavorable. Again, the reduced fare, that will end up at $7 million actually through June. Our non-fare box is up 1.9 million, and our total revenue is down by 5.1, and our average fare is up by about 1 cent. And you can see free rides are 1.2 million less than last year. Inside, Labor is 2.2 million favorable, and we continue to proactively manage our line, and we are also doing very well in our fringe benefits. We budgeted very conservatively. Our materials are 1.5 million unfavorable, and that's primarily due to we ran more train miles than we budgeted. As we had more construction projects, we used train shuttles instead of bus shuttles, which is more convenient for our customers. And then some of our facility work is just a timing issue. We started work, repairing some of our facilities earlier than what we budgeted. So some of that is a timing issue. Our fuel continues to be slightly favorable, and that's primarily due to our purchasing, during our advanced purchasing for 15. Our power is favorable, and that's due to, April was a mild month, so we just used less power. The security services is flat, and other expenses is primarily just a timing issue of invoices. So our operations are about $1 million favorable. So year to date, our labor continues to be favorable. Materials are unfavorable. Remember, in the winter, we did have that one bad month. Fuel continues to be favorable. Power is slightly favorable year to date. And other expenses are slightly favorable. And you can see that. And that's primarily, again, due to just timing of invoices. So our operating expenses are about 4.4 million favorable. As you remember, our revenue was about 5 million unfavorable. So we're probably net about $1 million unfavorable. And that's primarily due to the reduced fare issues. And this was just a chart just showing that and power and our natural gas all are tracking favorable. Are there any questions?
In investment income, you've shown very good variance. Okay, can you please explain us a little bit of how you did it?
Yes, so we just became a little more aggressive within investment policy. Since we run roughly $100 million of unrestricted cash and about $100 million of damage reserve, we sit in our durations of our investments and get slightly better rates. And we're putting the pressure on our treasurer to continue to do that, all within our investment policy.
Yes. It seems that you did very well. No questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have our external auditors that was going to the board and officially present our audit. John.
Our next order of business is the independent auditor's report, year 2014. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is John Weber. I'm a partner with Crowe Horwath. Hopefully I will do very well like Ron did for you. So I just want to talk about the results of the annual audit for the year ended December 31st, 2014. Our engagement is to audit the financial statements, to evaluate internal controls, and also to perform a audit on your federal funds that you receive. The audit of the financial statements, we did issue a unmodified or clean audit opinion. That means all the numbers in the financials are reasonably stated in all material respects, as auditors like to say, which the numbers were all good. So the numbers being presented are accurate that you're looking at. So With regards to the financial audit, we also review and look at internal controls over financial reporting. And we do this in order to not only help plan our audit and design our audit procedures, but to determine if there's any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the control structure. And we to note this year in that letter, so that is a clean letter as well. With the federal funds, the CTA receives about $305 million funds were received in 2014. And we need to test compliance with laws and regulations as established by the federal government. We're mainly FTA is the grant funding you received. So we go through that process and we issue an opinion on that, and that opinion was a clean or unmodified opinion as well. So it basically reads that we were able to audit the numbers and that the CTA complied with the federal laws and regulations related to the spending of the money. As also related with that, we did not have material weaknesses, internal controls, or findings that were required to be reported to the federal government. So again, a very clean audit with that. You know, for the, I think, second, third year in a row with that. So overall, you know, very good audit results. Again, Ron Denard, Sharon Weiler, their entire team in finance, very professional to work with, and helped us tremendously to be able to get, you know, our job done efficiently and timely and report to you.
Testing, okay, in cybersecurity.
We do not. That's not part of a audit, a financial audit. What we do though, is we do evaluate the IT controls over the financial systems. So what we're doing is looking at all of the, you know, the input controls, the output controls over the financial systems that are relevant to the numbers we're auditing. To make sure that there's good controls in place and that we can rely on the system as it's producing. With that, you know, we did not have any recommendations, and we were able to rely on.
So you're comfortable look at what we have right now?
I'm comfortable in your systems and that they're producing accurate financial numbers, correct. You know, there's always cybersecurity issues are a whole, you know, different ballgame.
Any questions?
Mr. Silva, I would, to your question about cybersecurity, I've asked a similar question of my IT staff, and I've asked them to give me an assessment of sort of where we are on the cybersecurity issue. It's obviously something that I've been familiar with from my time at the federal government, and so I am looking at that to determine if there are additional things we need to do to ensure that our technology is adequately protected. And I'm happy to report back on that once I get that information.
Thank you. Any other questions? If there are no further questions, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance for fiscal 18 capital improvement program and amending ordinance 014-133. Ron and Tom.
Good morning. Tom McCone, VP of Budget and Capital Finance. Before you, it's amending the approved 5-year capital improvement program. This amendment adds $36.4 million in funding into the CTA's official 5-year capital improvement program. The funding comes from updated formula and federal grant funds, City of Chicago TIF funds, CTA local funds, and updated RTA grants. These funds were anticipated, and now that they are officially available, they can be incorporated into the program. The additional funds will then become a 5-year capital improvement program totaling $2.5 billion. Any questions?
Any questions? So the 36 million, okay, I noticed, okay, that 20 of them, okay, were variance in budget and in insurance collections. Can you just talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the CTA local funds are comprised of two sources. One is insurance settlement funds that are required to be programmed in the capital program, and the other is a positive variance on public funding that came in 2014. So those are the two sources that make up that $23 million variance, and that is carried over into the capital program so we can invest it into the system.
Okay, any other questions?
One sort of question. How do you decide where to put, where to program the money?
The two different scenarios. One is where the funds are specifically allocated to a project, and we've been anticipating them and wait for them to be formalized. So for instance, the City of Chicago funds that are coming into the program, they're specifically for the Your New Blue project, right? So they're assigned to specific stations or track work that are, we're always anticipating these funds to come in. So we're programming the additional funds into the track needs that we have. They were identified in the program, just the funding hadn't been officially allocated yet. So as the funding became official, then we put them in that part of the program. The other thing we do is we'd adjust timing based on the project needs with the timing schedule. So sometimes, they need it in 2015, 2016, 2017. So you're moving funds based on the project needs within each year.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item in the notes for approval?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance declaring a surplus and authorizing the sale of authority property located at 4 West Newport Avenue. Carol, good morning.
Good morning. Carol Morey, your Chief Planning Officer.
Morning.
This authorized the sale of 1044 West Newport to JAB Merger LLC, owned by James John and Frank Campisi, for $1,015,000. This was purchased from ComEd in 1964 for $1 and was formerly used as a substation, but is currently vacant and not required for operations. The property was appraised at $950,000 and was offered through an invitation for bid, sealed bid. Only one bid received, but as it is above the appraised value, CTA staff is recommending that the bid be accepted. I would be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Millionfold profit?
I'm sorry,
So we're getting a millionfold profit out of it? We bought it for $1 and selling it for $1 million?
exactly.
Kudos.
Great.
That's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah.
Any other? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item and the omnibus for approval?
So moved. Second?
Our next order of business is the review of 3 ordinances authorizing leases of retail concession space at 463rd Street, Chicago, Illinois, 800 East 63rd, Chicago, Illinois, and 107 West Division Street, Chicago, Illinois. Carol.
So the next 3 ordinances are real estate concession leases. The first lease is to Mr. Chris Montgomery and Mr. Cedric Harris for the 63rd and King Drive Green Line Station. The space is 80 square feet, and the initial rent will be $1,440 per year with a 3% escalation. This space has been vacant since 1994 when the Green Line was renovated, and it will be a convenience store. The lease has an initial term of 3 years with 2 5-year options. The CTA received only 1 bid for this space, but it is within the suggested minimum of $10 to $20 per square foot at $18 per square foot. The second lease is to Mr. Donald Grayson for the 63rd Cottage Grove Station. The space is 90 square feet and the $2,400 per year with a 3% escalation. The lease is for 10 years with 2 5-year options. The space since April of 20 a similar business as an MBA student at Ottawa University in Kansas. CTA received 2 bids for the space, and Mr. Grayson's was the highest received at $26.67 per square foot, which is above the suggested minimum of $10 to $20 per square foot.
Carol, if I need to jump back to the first one, but Chris Montgomery and Cedric Harris, are they community people?
They are.
There's not a lot of background on them.
They are. They both grew up on the south side. They're active in the Woodlawn community as volunteers. Mr. Harris works for Comcast as a communications technician. He's been covering the south side for 9 years. And Mr. Montgomery was formerly in the Coast Guard, and he's now a contractor for the U.S. Air Force. This is their first business venture, but they're
Okay.
very active.
Okay.
It's fantastic to have these spaces filled,
Yeah.
and
No, it's-
the low rent hopefully will allow them to.
Absolutely. They asked for a 3-year because this is a new business venture for them, but given that it was the only bid, that they're from the community, we wanted to recommend that to you for approval.
Okay, good.
Any questions? If there are no further questions, may I have,
What they were, was that it?
The
did you
third,
do the third?
yeah, I can tell you about the third lease if you'd
Yeah,
like.
I'm sorry. I'm
Oh, no
sorry.
problem. This is to Tobmar International, doing business as Gateway Brands. This is the 5 square feet. And the initial rent is $30,030 with a 3% escalation. The lease is for 10 years with 2 5-year options, operated as a newsstand convenience store. We received only 1 bid for the space, but it's within the suggested minimum of $70 to $90 per square foot at $78 per square foot. I'd be happy to take any additional questions.
Any additional questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place these 3 items on the omnibus for approval?
So move.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Moraine Valley Community College for railroad frog and track welding training. Chris?
Chris Bouchel, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Good morning. In front of you for your consideration is an ordinance to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Moraine Valley Community College for specialized welding training. This welding is a special track work that's located throughout the system in places as diverse as the section of the track at 18th, Tower 18, at any of the emergency crossovers that you may see on our ballasted track system-wide. And so we have special out there associated with the switches. These are commonly called frogs. They're made up of complicated and the welding on them is a highly specialized endeavor. We've worked before with to good success, so we're renewing that effort so that we can train additional members of our track department. The cost is not to exceed $86,800. The program will consist of 2 customized 4-week, 160-hour programs for 4 employees. That's a total per course. That's a total of 8 employees, and the term is 2 years. Any
Help
questions?
me understand they already our employees, okay, and we send them into school. Is that pretty?
Yeah,
much
correct. These are trackmen who have they do have some limited welding experience, predominantly with acetylene. This raises the bar significantly and teaches them how to do a very specialized type of welding that really is limited to the most part to railroads. It's a big piece of metal. It has a lot of also is made up of different types of metals that have to be taken into consideration as you weld it.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Relationship with Moraine Valley College, but have you talked with city colleges in light of the fact that Olive Harvey is supposed to be sort of transportation, distribution, logistics, college now?
Mm-hmm.
Have we thought about having maybe a Moraine Valley location, but also maybe a city college, a
Well,
City of Chicago location?
I think that's a great idea. You know, we'll certainly look at that going forward. I think the challenge for any college in setting this program up is a capital one, and there aren't that many people that train on it. So it's a big investment. It would have to be done kind of in conjunction with developing a more complete. It's probably not something that would be done discreetly just at a transportation oriented school, especially if the focus of that was more the logistics behind transportation, that is how to ship and how to receive and how to do that efficiently. So it's possible, and we'll certainly encourage those. We talked with our learning and support group, and they encouraged and validated our word. We'll encourage them to have those discussions, training in the
Well,
city.
the reason I raise it, do you think this is going to be a growing area in the transportation industry? You know, similar to what we're doing with North Lawndale around diesel mechanics. So my reason for raising the question, if it's going to be a great investment in short term, but if it's a long-term need that we're going to have 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road,
Yeah.
at least talking with them now, start planning ahead to maybe where we could have a Chicago location. So that's why I was just thinking, if it's going to be a constant need as we continue to invest in capital and conversation with them, if this is going to be one of those middle skill jobs that people can go and, you know.
We'll work with learning and support. Not aware of any good matches at the moment. It's not something we're going to stop doing. We're going to continue to do it, and it probably has other applications outside of just the railroad. So we'll continue to look for more local opportunities as well.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing the purchase of primary and excess property insurance coverage for 2015-2016 policy year. Steve.
Morning. Steve Wood, Deputy General Counsel in the CTA's Law Department. This ordinance involves authorization of the 2015 to 2016 property insurance policy from July to July, and it's renewed every year. As in prior years, our insurance broker at Mesereau and our DBE Paradigm marketed the renewal to both domestic and international insurance markets. The insurance syndicate led by Lloyd's of London provided the best combination of coverage and price. The proposed premium for next year's policy, along with taxes and fees, is approximately $2,464,000, which is actually a reduction in the premium of about $390,000 from last year's premium, so about 13% from last year's rate. Premium is based primarily on the CTA's clean claims record for the prior year, July of 2014 to July of 2015. And in addition, there is some softness in the premium market that is benefiting insureds currently. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any
My
questions?
compliments in reducing.
Annual review. Coverages.
And the coverages are reviewed annually upon renewal. There's a process, a fairly lengthy process over the months leading up to this presentation to the board where we go back and review our statement of values, our assets, various kinds of coverages we have, the terrorism policy, the primary policy, the excess. We make sure that everything is consistent and up to date.
So the clear claims record that you mentioned, is that included in this insurance policy as well? So if we're able to reduce that, and do we get an additional discount possibly?
It's a combination of where the market is, as well as obviously a clean claims record is always a positive in terms of the pressures on reducing that premium. But yes, I would anticipate that we would have some benefit against July from a clean claims record for this period.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance amending the Chicago Transit Authority procurement policy and procedures to increase the competitive bidding threshold for small purchases. Helen, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Ellen McCormick. I'm Vice President of Purchasing and Supply Chain. I'm here before you this morning to ask for your approval of an ordinance which would authorize an amendment to the CTA's procurement policy and procedures. This proposed amendment would increase the threshold for small purchases which do not require to be increased from $10,000 to $40,000. In 1991, the Illinois General Assembly amended the Metropolitan Transport Public Notice bidding only on procurements over $10,000. In January of this year, the state legislature again amended the MTA Act by increasing the threshold of those procurements requiring public notice to be increased from $10,000 to $40,000, with the state legislature's most recent amendment. If the proposed amendment to the CTA's procurement policy and procedures is approved by the board, procurements of $40,000 and under would still be competitively procured by sending out requests for quotes via email to CTA vendors registered in those particular commodity codes. Upon receipt of the quotes, purchasing would award the contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Where possible, purchasing will send the RFQ to at least 6 vendors and at least the board will not lose visibility into these procurements as they will still be reported on the monthly contracts report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I was going to ask a question, but I'll give a comment instead. I've always felt that the bidding process was a very costly process, so I'm happy to see that that's being made easier. Just want to be sure that we are getting good value still. What are you going to be doing about, making sure that we're getting a large pool of possible applicants and that sort of thing?
So we have a software called Noetics at the CTA, and that lists all of our vendors who are listed for a particular commodity code. We make sure we send it to everyone on that list. If we don't have 6 vendors on that particular are available to do that particular, we go out to the internet. Now there are where we can't get 6, but we try to send it to at least 6 or more. If there are more vendors who are listed on that commodity code, we send it out to all of them. Competition is still very important. We are currently doing that for all contracts, $10,000 to $40,000. Advertising costs, and it's a quicker turnaround.
We're going to deal with the DBE.
We are working very closely with DBE. We want to make sure we do not miss out on any DBE opportunities, and we've already spoken.
Any question? Go ahead,
So
please,
you're
Doctor.
working hard to aggressively increase the pool, right?
Yes, yes, we are, absolutely, absolutely. We go to, all sorts of outlets. We are purchasing and starting here, which is rather unusual. We did it once, it had a good turnout. We try to limit it to a specific field so they can come in and from the using departments, we aggressively try to look for new vendors.
And has that been increasing, the number of vendors? Have you seen a larger variety?
It has been increasing.
And on the DBE side as well?
So we do it, we work with diversity as well because we understand there are select vendors that some of our, or DBE subcontractors that some of our vendors, our main contractors are comfortable doing business, so we're trying to expand that pool. And that's one of the reasons for purchasing, doing it, and diversity has, Carolyn, speak to that.
Good morning, Carolyn Williams-Meza, Director, Diversity Programs. I wanted to add that our diversity did a review of first 2012 through June 9th of 2015. That totaled 9,607 contracts, and of those, 32 had DBE goals assigned. That represented 1/3 of 1%. We are not setting goals on the smaller dollar contracts because there's not very much to subcontract. So we will continue to monitor, but we are not thinking that we'll see any kind of significant change in terms of the impact.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Our final business today is the review of 5 purchase and sales award recommendations. Helen. With contract numbers A1 and A2. Any questions? You just talk a little bit, okay, about the A1 contract, which is the vehicles of the police.
Sure. There are 12 of the vehicles that we currently have are 8 years old with very high mileage. And 4 vehicles have been retired because the mileage is so high, they're no longer safe. With the 12 that have the very high mileage, out of service because of work being done on them. So this, what this contract is, what this one went out for 35, to purchase 35, no less than 12 at a time. So this effectually we purchased 16 originally, we're asking permission for the funding to purchase another 16, which will close out this contract for us.
Thank you.
We feel like we got very good pricing. There's Ford Explorers SUV, and with all the various equipment that's put on, it's between $32,281 and $222. So we feel we got very good.
Good. Good. Let's keep it up.
Mr. Chairman,
Any other questions? Go ahead,
Sure, I have a
please.
question about A2. For the parts on the 5000 series cars, how long was the warranty on those?
I believe some of the cars are coming out of warranty now, but I'll let Tom Matuzak speak to that.
General Manager, a variety of the 5000 series cars are coming out. Every month they come out of warranty. This is our best at what we feel will support these 5000 series cars for the next 3 years as they come out of warranty.
Are the air conditioning 5000 series, are they kind of operating as they have in previous orders, or?
They're similar in nature. It's upgraded, it has more electronics, but we anticipate the performance to be similar.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Let's move to contracts B1 and B2. Any questions? So let's move to contract number C1. If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place these purchase and sale awards on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Helen. Since there are no further come before this committee, motion to recommend approval of the omnibus.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Secretary, call the roll, please.
Yes.
Chairman Silva,
Yes.
that motion is approved with 7 yes votes.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
1 minute.
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned. Carry 1 minute. Good morning.
I'd like to call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for June 10, 2015. Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Irvine.
Here.
Mr. Young. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Chairman Peterson.
Here.
Quorum of all 7 members present.
Thanks, Greg. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a minute to welcome Dorval back and let him know that you have him back and look forward to working with him.
Amen.
And also want to welcome Pastor Robinson back, who's been under the weather. I know, I'm glad to see you, Pastor. You look great, and don't know if you have a few words you want to say, but
Yes, I want to thank this entire CTA for really supporting me in my darkest hour. I had two strokes. My kidneys, I don't have no kidneys now, but I want to thank Dr. Sims for coming to see me, and Greg, and so Roberts, one of the vice presidents. But out of all of that, I want to thank you, Dover, for really supporting me tremendously. I followed Dover when he was alderman, when he was head of CHA, when he ran two of Mayor Daley's campaign, when he is now vice president.
I know Dorval is saying, hold it.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I didn't do all. Dorval's like, hold it.
Yeah.
He might be talking about Terry, Peter.
I'm talking about Terry. Now, you know I don't have but anyway, I thank God for being the vice president of Rush Hospital, because he moved things for me when I was at Rush. And last, but by him being chairman of CTA, out of all of the people I started out with Valerie Jarrett, and a good job. I started out also with Carol Brown, my good friend Frank Crucy, and Dover was there when I came on board. But now, all of the guys and ladies that I have worked with these past 14 years, I have to say that Terry Peterson is the best I've seen. And I thank God for him, and I thank God that he let me live long enough that I could meet of his standard. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Pastor. It was an absolute honor. And again, I'm going to give God the credit for and business today is the public comment. Greg?
Yes. Chairman, yes, we have 4 speakers who have actually arrived here today on time. I want to thank you for them. And I would like to remind everybody that you are limited to 3 minutes in your comments, but obviously staff can meet with you afterwards if you have more that you want to talk about with staff. I'd like to start with Ms. Ruby Pinto as the first speaker. Thank you, Ms. Pinto.
Good morning, Board, President Carter. My name is Ruby Pinto. I'm chair of Bridgeport Alliance and an organizer with Southsiders Organized for Unity and Liberation. I'm here representing Bridgeport, a broader coalition of both the North and South sides. We came together out of mutual concern about the accessibility of public transit within our communities. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody who is here as delegates of the 3111 Crosstown Bus Coalition to please stand. We're advocating for the restoration of both the 31st Street bus on the south side and the Lincoln Avenue bus to the north. Both of these routes would connect several diverse communities. I happen to live in Bridgeport, but I'm employed in Ravenswood, near Lincoln Avenue. Both of these routes would provide me personally with much-needed transit options. Like me, those gathered here and those we represent are currently lacking or void of access to various employment opportunities and other vital destinations. These destinations include grocery stores, hospitals, recreational destinations such as parks and the beach. Those of you who have been a few years know that this list could be much longer, but for the sake of brevity, I will leave it at that today. Additionally, side communities have developed immensely in the past few years. We've seen a multitude of small businesses open or attempt to open, businesses that could flourish with the help of adequate public transit. Businesses like these would benefit immensely, and so would our communities. These routes would bring opportunities for economic development to Chicago's neighborhoods. Currently, our communities are engaging around these two buses. Chambers of commerce, elected officials, business owners, clergy, and residents are all signing on in support and eager for the restoration of our buses. Every community has its fair share of contention. Even those within our own coalition, there are those hard Cubs fans. But we found that people from all walks of life can get behind these buses. 11 Crosstown Bus Coalition has come here today to let you, the board, know that we will be present at CTA board meetings and that we plan to work with you to find a way to reinstate these routes. It's been very encouraging and enlightening forces, and we hope to build on this crosstown partnership to make our city a better place. Each person here standing behind me has their own story, and I really highly encourage you to engage with them after this meeting is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Our next speaker will be, I'm sorry, that was Ms. Pinto. Thank you. Next speaker will be Ms. Hughes, Ellen Hughes, and if you would like to step up to the front, and Michael, would you like to step up as well to the front? Because we're going to go with Ms. Hughes and then with you, Michael. So, Ms. Hughes, just microphone and welcome.
Hi, thank you for allowing me today. My name's Ellen Hughes. Why do we want to stop the flyover? First, because it's not needed. The flyover initially was sold to taxpayers as a solution to a 3 to 4 minute delay caused when the brown line crosses the red and purple lines. I've timed this at rush hour. Ben Jarafsky of The Reader has timed it, and I suggest you time it. The delay is 20 to 30 seconds. Promotional materials, the project managers have backed away from this claim. The only way the flyover can address capacity is by removing a 20 to 30 second delay. Calling it a stoplight at Belmont, it's not a stoplight, it's a very brief pause. Second is avoiding the small occasional delay worth the destruction of Central Lakeview. To build the flyover, they plan to tear down 16 to 20 buildings and leave behind blocks of under-L wasteland, lots too small for redevelopment, and skyway-style tracks way overhead. You don't have to take my word for it. You can ask Blair Kamen, the architecture critic of the Chicago Tribune, ask Ward Miller, the executive director of Preservation Chicago. And I brought along today a letter from Hawthorne Neighbors, and the letter is written by urban planner Adam Rosa, who makes some very good points. While other cities are taking great strides to restore the character and quality of life in their urban communities by removing highways and overpasses, Chicago's just about to plow right through its top restaurant, theater, and entertainment district outside the loop. Don't get us wrong, we believe the overall CTA's RPM project is great. It's time to replace 100-year-old tracks, supports, and stations to provide safer, faster trains and increase capacity for the future. But the Belmont flyover, which was an project, is not needed. We've been told we should simply take the CTA's word for it that the flyover is needed, even though they have not supplied the supportive research per our FOIA request over a year ago. But you don't need here to know that a 20 to 30 second delay is insignificant. Just as common sense of non-engineers would have prevented the disaster that is the Loop Superstation under Block 37. The taxpayers of the city, the state, and the country do not need another CTA multi-million mistake. Please take a few minutes to refer to our website, which is on the bottom of the handout I give you, where we lay all this out very plainly. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Our next speaker will be Mr. Michael Payne.
Good morning, board members and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, and welcome President Dorrell Carter. I'm sorry you come into a blender. My name is Mike Payne. I am a BP gas station attendant in the western suburbs, and I am also the author of the CTA Gray Line project, to which Ms. Hughes referred. The CTA Gray included in CMAP's RTP, ID number 0102-9003, It is the most shovel-ready project in the entire United States, as the trains are running already. It would upgrade the in-city Metro Electric lines to operate as part of CTA's L system for $100 million, 5 to 40 stations. It would take Mayor Emanuel 2 phone calls to create the Gray Line, one to this CTA board and one to Martin Oberman of Metro, whom he appointed to the board and was subsequently appointed chairman of the Metro board. Ms. Hughes and the Flyover Coalition and me and the CTA Gray Line are here to file a Title VI civil rights non-compliance complaint against CTA, Metro, and Mayor Rahm Emanuel. The civil rights complaint will be written as temporary until such time as Governor Bruce Rauner can form a transit project review board to study and rank major capital projects submitted by the transit operators as to costs with the most relative benefits, especially since the state must come up with matching cap funds to any federal grants. Can form this review board that we are referring to. For information about the Gray Line, Google the mayor's own museum campus transportation. I also get in touch with Spike Lee while he is filming here in Chicago so he can see how the lack of investment on the South Side is part of what is creating Chirac. Thank you very much for your time. I have it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Oh, and we have one more.
All right.
And our final speaker of the day is, would you like to step up and address the board? Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak this morning, Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
And others. I'll abbreviate some of my comments. Uncoordinated planning. The CTA has shown a disturbing lack of coordinated long-range planning, not only in-house, but with the region under the RT. The capacity of the State Street Subway in Loop will be exceeded according to the red-purple modernization projections, and a new subway into downtown needed, impacting the needs for both the red-purple bypass and the Sheridan Station recon. The roughly $2 billion Red Line extension construction that would overlap existing metro services and infrastructure is especially egregious when CTA could be expanded at far less cost. Red-purple modernization. The fundamental north side capacity issue is the existing subway and elevator. Clark Loop may be able to handle many more trains than at present. The loop elevator may not be able to handle any more trains than at present. The full utilization of six tracks north of Clark Junction cannot be realized with only 4 tracks into downtown. My calculations indicate that 60 trains, theoretically 68, Red Line and 30 Brown Line and Brown and Purple Line trains could be handled in the peak hour direction at Clark Junction. In addition, the current lack of capacity on the north side Red Line due to crowding on trains and boarding delays because only 20 trains are scheduled in the peak hour. Is this level of service the result of limited fleet size and allocation, insufficient yard capacity, or both? New 5000 series cars were purchased on the basis of replacement, saving the 2600 series cars in reserve and purchasing the 7000 series cars to expand the fleet may be moot if yards have insufficient storage capacity, but where are the plans and money for the yard in that case? If fleet storage is a limiting factor, the Purple Line could be eliminated, at least in the interim, and the cars put to better use on the Red Line to raise overall capacity by 22% headways in the peak hour. The current demand incurs boarding delays and reduces capacity now. Won't higher future demand with a service area population of 185,000 likewise limit headways and the number of trains that can be handled in the peak and reinvest for a new subway?
many more buses on downtown streets, and bus rapid transit just won't be feasible.
Mr. Keller, we need to wrap up pretty soon, please.
Okay, one more paragraph. Red Purple bypass. The $570 million Red Purple bypass proposed a necessary, costly, and perhaps premature solution that ignores the need of the subway between the north side and downtown, where the investment would be more effective. Unnecessary because the needs for 4 elevators in Irving Park for rebuilding the Sheridan station are eliminated. Costly because position for the proposed and for curb reduction on a 4-track north side main is not needed, and the original 2-track alignment can be restored.
Thank you, Mr. Kaler.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
You can leave those notes with us if you wish.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Pearson, that concludes the public comment section of today's meeting.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is the approval of 1320 board minutes. I'd now like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular of May 13, 2015.
Move it.
Second.
It's been seconded. On the minutes, Mr. Robinson? Abstain. Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. Our next order of business today is executive session. It is my understanding, Karen, that there will be an executive session.
Yes, Chairman. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 2, we will have a short executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Thanks, Karen. With that, I'll entertain a motion to recess into executive session based upon the reasons so stated by counsel.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 7 yes votes.
I will now entertain a motion to return to the board.
So moved.
Second. Yes.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Mr. Alvaro Rosales? Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
The motion to move back into open session is approved with 7 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is executive session matter. Board agenda item number 4A was discussed in executive session. I'll now entertain a motion a settlement recommendation of $1.3 million in case number 2011 L004483, Chantel Reynolds, who is now deceased. Would Secretary call the roll?
Oh, we need
I move.
You moved already, and
Okay.
seconded by Mr. Youngblood.
Second.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvaro Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 7 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is a report from the Committee of and Budget. Director.
Finance Audit and Budget met earlier this morning. The committee reviewed the finance report, the annual audit, and approved the May committee minutes. The committee also reviewed and recommended for board following items: an ordinance for fiscal years 2019 capital program, authorizing the sale of authority property located at 1044 West Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, Brown Line. 3 ordinance authorizing retail concession spaces at the following locations: 400 East 63rd Street, 800 East Street, 107 West Division Street. An ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the Moraine Valley Commission for railroad, frog, and truck welding training. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of primary and excess property insurance coverage for 2015-2016 policy year. An ordinance amending the Chicago Transit Authority procurement policy and increase the competitive bidding threshold for small purchases, and 5 purchases and sales award recommendations. The committee recommended approval of all of these items and placed them on the omnibus for board approval. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Director Silva. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvaro Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
The motion to approve is approved with 7 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order is construction report, Chris.
Chris Bouchel, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Today we have 4 projects for discussion: the Kimball Princeton State Substation Project, the 95th Street Terminal Improvement Program, the Wilson Transfer Station Track and Structure Reconstruction, and the track reconstruction. The first project is a reconstruction, rehabilitation of 3 substations. We have improved not only the exterior envelopes of these buildings to make sure they're weather tight, but also replace the outside of them. Currently in renovation at the State Street subway. I'm sorry, the State Substation. You see here photographs of roofing work at the State Substation, as well as the removal of old traction power equipment. And I'll remind you that all of that work occurs while those substations are being fully used for service and is part of the logistics plan of the project. 95th Terminal Improvement Project Program. As we've noted in previous reports, the construction of the South Terminal foundations is currently underway. I have some pictures of it here. Various activities associated with it. A jack and bore pit at the northeast quadrant. This is necessary to drill a small tunnel underneath 95th Street for communication and power wiring. and then the construction of the foundations themselves in the southwest quadrant. The Wilson Transfer Station, currently on schedule and on budget. The majority of the work is still demolition as well as the construction of new foundations and the drilling of associated caissons. I wanted to show some pictures here of the extent of the demolition. You've heard me report on it several times. You can see the demolition of these existing freight structures is extensive, and the structures themselves are while being deteriorated, are still robust and require a big effort on the part of the contractor. The lower left, you see a contractor's employee torch cutting some of the steel to remain, some of the steel to be demolished. The Ravenswood Loop Connector, I'm pleased to say we've completed the 7th of 13 weekends. We've seen significant progress out there in terms of the work. We do, coming up here on a busy holiday and summer season, we're going to pause for a few weekends to let some of those festivals and events occur and come back in July after the July board meeting for our next line cut and then come toward the end of this year. Again, this project is both on time and on schedule. Showing some pictures. We include the names of all these curves. Actually, every little curve that's out there has a name. So this is the Dayton curve to the south of the Armitage Station. And then this is the installation of timber guard on a tangent or straightaway section. And with that, I conclude my report.
Any questions for Chris? None. Thank you, Chris. Greg, is there any new business to come before the board?
No, sir.
Before we adjourn, I'd just like to acknowledge our former board member, Jackie Grimshaw, is in the back with a beautiful white hat. Jackie's in the back. Glad Jackie could join us. Since there is no new business to come before the board, may I now have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.